Today we are holding a special announcement press conference by International Tibetan Shooting Community. Because recently the Dharamsala Tibetan Administration Kasha held an emergency press conference on November 14th. Their press conference designed to furthermore people who practice doji shooting, demonize, and also to enforce and excuse why the discrimination and also religious persecution, segregation exists in exiled Tibetan community. And also they're casting to calling more violence against for people who practice doji shooting. And that's why we like to explain or give true information what really Tibetan community happening. They have desperately tried to cover up the true color of the Tibetan exile government and Tibetan community, how much segregation and how much religious persecution going on as for the written book. And also they have a make-up story with a CD disc movie sort of. And also they use Reuters article as a for their proof. We also have many news clips and proof how much the Tibetan who practice doji shooting suffering in South India and world Tibetan community. The Losang Singis press conference included a book and video and also speech, which is baseless, try to more demonize doji shooting people. And now we like to have any questions if you may have. Thank you.
I have my personal question to you. Recently, the CTA, the Lobsang Sangye, and their administration group, they held a press conference.
Yes.
And they used as tools, as a router, the news, internet news. And what do you think about in this general, the info from the routers, and what is your interpretation, and what is your explanation to the people in general?
Thank you, Rosala. The Reuters article is news organization. It's not an intelligent service, sort of. Not a spy, not anything else, just basically other people, what they tell them, they put in the news. Even though I think it's very biased news, but they says nothing about proof the doji shooting practitioners funded by Chinese. Even article, the news guy wrote me a letter, said they have no proof that it will be funded by Chinese government, and they never said in the article that it is funded by Chinese government. But all the news, there's news, someone else, RT, a news organization, did a research on Reuters article on this subject. They find it totally baseless. What the Reuters article says that people who work for Dalai Lama, for example, Tibetan Campaign for Tibet office in New York, not New York, I mean London, and also in Tibetan administration's employees, a few of them interviewed. Their accusation, their suspicious is that we traveling and against Dalai Lama must be paid by Chinese. That's they wrote an article, but they never said. News people never had any proof, and it's myth in the newspaper says we have no proof or any information that Doji Shugding people funded by Chinese. That's the true article is. The bias was because we also know that have a proof that Tibetan settlement in a community segregation exists. Many libraries, health clinic, restaurant, and monastery right from the door post said, if you practice Doji Shugding, you're not allowed to enter. That's segregation. That is the segregation. But Reuters never mentioned that sign and never put that picture. So Reuters was biased, but not that much as what administration believe. Try to believe it, or they try to use the organization to manufacture more for demonized Shugding practitioners.
CTA, the Sikyong Lobsang Singye, keep saying that there is no any discrimination within Tibetan community. And what I learned from your the website and your media and papers, that they says there is a discriminating going on in Tibetan community about the worshipping Buddhist deity Doji Shugden. And so how you gonna explain to the people there is ongoing discriminating within Tibetan community?
Actually, Losang Singye must know that Tibetan community has discrimination and religious persecution going on. And also there's segregation existing everywhere in the Tibetan exile settlement area. And for example, there's Losang Singye said, we have Shugding practitioner has monastery in South India because there is no discrimination, religious freedom exists. But Doji Shugding monastery and non-Doji Shugding monastery built a burning wall. They did not, since 2008, the Dalai Lama's policy saying that religious and material do not mix with the people who practice Doji Shugding. That's segregation. And also health clinic that owned by Tibetan administration, and also library, and also monasteries and temples, and even a Dalai Lama's palace gate in South India says, if you practice Doji Shugding, do not allow into this restaurant, shops, and any other people daily needs. He knows that. And Doji Shugding practitioner exists in India because Indian government's protection, but not by Tibetan exile administrations. We practice outside of a Tibetan settlement and the community. He knew that. And also many newspapers, news organizations, well-known, famous, such as SUS Public TV, BBC News, and French 24, and Al Jazeera, it's called People with Power, reported that Tibetan exile is not democracy, and Doji Shugding practitioner is suffering with suppression and also with segregation. And how come Losang Singye believe Reuters few words, but never believe SUS Public TV, French 24, BBC, and Al Jazeera? They reported that Tibetan is not democracy and no religious freedom. Is that good?
Yeah. The Sikyong, he still claimed that there's no discriminating because they gave the IC and RC the documents that the Tibetan people can travel within India or outside. So, what do you think about that? It is a proper way to prove that there's no any discriminating, or what do you have any explanation on that?
RC and IC, both Tibetan refugees, documented issued by Indian government. There's nothing had to do with Tibetan exile administration. Actually, what they prove is, I think that what they prove is the Reuters article blamed the Dorji Shugden practitioner as a part of a Chinese whatever. As proved that the Indian government doesn't believe that. That's why people who practice Dorji Shugden have received refugee status and a travel document by Indian government. This you should really know the difference. The Tibetan administration has it's called a green book. That's really is a tax you can pay tax, and they said receipt, tax receipt book. But even though you practice Dorji Shugden, receive that book, you must sign it. You disassociate with people who practice Dorji Shugden and the Dorji Shugden itself. You have to sign document. As there's no in 21st century that segregate and religious persecution going on in Tibetan community as any other places in the world.
Oh, thank you. So my last question is, your organization have any plan to organize any demonstration, sort of religious freedom to the Dalai Lama?
Well, that's we must continue until the religious freedom was accepted. Since Dalai Lama's organization and the Tibet administration and also Tibet Parliament passed many laws saying that a Dorji Shugden practice is not a religious. That's why we did not deserve religious freedom. That's their excuse is. But we are religious people, and we like to practice freely without expression and persecution. So until we receive fully benefit of democracy, religious freedom, equal opportunity rights, then we'll be organized demonstration and also press statement, and we will continue campaign. And actually, we wrote 7 points to the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan administration. Soon, accept that 7 point, we will start immediately to organize any sort of against Dalai Lama or Tibet administrators, because then we no reason. But we demonstration because we suppressed by Dalai Lama and suppressed by administrator and the Tibetan exile government. So we must continue until there be fully democracy in exile government.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to take the opportunity to say thank you for all this organizing and also for attention. We really appreciate it that people who cares for democracy and religious freedom for all people, all colors, different colors, all people. We also have more information on www.itcommunity.com, and also you can see in dorjishugden.com will be all the proof and information you can search there. We also like to continue to show news clips and other proof that the Tibetan administration is lying, and they are trying to cover up what their crime created in Tibetan community. Thank you.
Tereng azo de loseling zawdi chumni en chanzo dansa so kong so pada chanzo lo jugre en chanzo kong so le ya da gindu yongso lo la en da 퇴제 땐도 여봐 땐도 여매 저 직세 땐도 여버디디 땐도 여세네 세이죠 땐도 매버디디 땐도 매센 세이죠 죄송아 다 퇴제 땡에다 최저 성신기 겨와 냠주 전도 여 세네 너 여버디디 세이죠 퇴제 땡에도 냠돌이야 최저 성신기 아니 겨와 냠돌이야 롱전도 매 생기기 세이죠 죄송아 다 가르쳐서 마음이 유두시 수직 상황식입니다. 내 상황식에 간다다 카드 그 임지 동서 남는 시셔 되거라. 딱고 참지를 내셔.
The Gondan Monastery, one of the 3 oldest and most important universities of Tibetan Buddhism. Impressions of a monastic university. These monks are desperate because of a conflict with the Dalai Lama. They grant us entry into this temple. At the center of the conflict, the protector deity, Dorje Shugden. A very popular deity, mainly called upon to increase the power of meditation. It's the patron deity for whole regions of Tibet. It has been worshipped for centuries. Nothing would be more devastating to the monks than having to break the tradition. But this is precisely what the Dalai Lama has been vehemently demanding for 2 years. He keeps proclaiming that worshipping Dorje Shugden harms the cause of Tibet and that it endangers his own life. Neither of these points can be comprehended by the monks who are well trained in logic. An unusual scene, inconceivable a few years ago. Monks demonstrate against the government of the Dalai Lama. This man was present at the demonstration. Geshe Phuntsol Tsutrim is 64 years old and tells us that he's going through the saddest moments of his life.
We had asked our teachers to initiate us into the practice of this deity. Now we have either to act against the words of these great masters or disregard the Dalai Lama's ban. I deeply regret that I could not have died a few years ago, before this ban.
Geshe Lobsang Donden, 72 years old.
On the one hand, we cannot speak with the Dalai Lama. On the other hand, we have no choice but to act against his words. I keep thinking, if only I were already dead.
For centuries, Dorje Shugden has been revered by the greatest and most important Buddhist masters, many of whom are the most renowned masters of Tibetan history. One of them was the Dalai Lama's teacher. If the Dalai Lama thinks that all great masters were mistaken, he denies them their qualification as well. They would not be great masters. All the great masters who have worshipped this deity for the past 300 years, were they all wrong?
They are wrong. Wrong? Yes. Wrong.
That is all His Holiness says about the old masters. A ban that shakes many Tibetan Buddhists at the core of their faith. In just one monastery in southern India, about 1,000 monks refuse to comply with the Dalai Lama's decision. Anonymous threats are spread against anyone who refuses to obey his directives. Whoever reveres Dorje Shugden
must be targeted and firmly opposed. We must bring them before the public. They have to be killed.
Among the targets are 2 young lamas.
We will interrupt their lives and their activities.
The disciplinary master of this monastery receives the following letter during our visit.
You will be dead in 7 days' time.
After expressing concern about the Dalai Lama's ban, this retired minister was attacked with a knife. He barely survived. Many of the 100,000 exiled Tibetans living in India today used to worship Dorje Shugden, the deity which has now been banned. The family of sculptor Lubsang Sultrim owns 2 cows and a small field in the southern Indian settlement. They are the only ones who still revere this deity here. 2 years ago, there were 33 such families. Social pressure is extremely high within the Tibetan communities. Any contradiction of the Dalai Lama is frowned upon.
3 times a day I have to go and check on my wife when she's outside grazing the cows to make sure that nobody has harmed her. We have no friends anymore. Everyone makes life difficult for us. We can't go on living like this.
How many times have they thrown stones against our house? A little child sleeps inside. I don't care if they kill us parents, but I'm afraid they will harm our child. Every time I go to work, I'm scared they will kill my child or kidnap him before I get back. At meetings, they all look at me with contempt, even old friends. We live in constant fear. We trusted the Dalai Lama. If he does something like this, how far have things gone? We still live in the Tibetan community, but we don't belong there anymore. They have excluded us completely. The outskirts of Old Delhi, the Tibetan settlement. Those who are even worse off end up here. The Thupten family was literally chased out of their residential area. About 100 people attacked us. Had we gone out of our house, they definitely would have killed us. Fanatical followers of the Dalai Lama tried to burn down this family's house. They successfully forced these people who revere the deity now banned by the Dalai Lama to flee. They lost everything. This family are pariahs of the Tibetan community in India.
I have written many letters to the government in exile of the Dalai Lama. Please, please allow us to keep relying on this deity. Because I never got an answer. I even wrote to the Indian government.
Jampa Yeshe, the president of this organization, has lived alone in his apartment for the past year. His family was threatened so severely that he had to send his wife and 3 children abroad. The following photocopied wanted poster hits him the hardest.
These wanted posters have been posted everywhere. I assume this is meant as encouragement to kill us. We came to India because of our religion. We gave up Tibet to preserve Buddha's teachings. That's why we fled. This ban, however, stabs us right in our hearts. Who proclaimed this ban? Have we come to the point where we are no longer allowed to follow the teachings of the Buddha? From father to son, from generation to generation, from master to master, this pure tradition has been passed on.
These are the reasons for the ban given by the Dalai Lama to the Tibetan people.
Propitiating Dogyal does great harm to the cause of Tibet. It also imperils the life of the Dalai Lama.
May 1996. Are you aware of the potential for violence that your ban contains if the Tibetans think that your life is in danger?
No. So they will get very, very...
No.
He continues to bring up this subject in public discussions. A commission of his government in exile found no wrongdoing against the worshippers of this deity.
Everybody, you can ask, the majority, I think 99%, completely agree or follow. This is my sort of advice. And from this side, no single record about violence.
The widespread image of a happy, non-violent old Tibet is a romantic myth. The country was strictly organized hierarchically, ruled by clergy and nobility. Draconian physical punishment was customary. That, too, was the old Tibet. For the past 350 years, the Dalai Lamas were worldly rulers of the country. They lived in the magnificence of the palace. It was unacceptable to contradict the Dalai Lama. Private audiences were virtually unobtainable for common Tibetans. Dharamsala in northern India. Today, the Dalai Lama's seat of government in exile is at the foot of the Himalayas. His residence has become more modest, but he has formed a government with ministries and a parliament of its own. The Dalai Lama presides over it. Thupten Lungring is vice president of the parliament.
3/4
All important decisions need a 75% majority.
major decision.
Has there ever been a decision against His Holiness the Dalai Lama?
No, no.
Would you ever think of a decision of the parliament against His Holiness the Dalai Lama?
No, no.
The personal ritual monastery of the Dalai Lama. Dharamsala is small. Statements of the government in exile take effect immediately. After a public talk by the Dalai Lama, 3 nuns removed the statue of the banned deity Dorje Shugden. They destroyed it and threw the remains into this rubbish pit. The Dalai Lama's followers keep posting denunciations on public walls. They denounce the worshippers of this deity, giving name, address, and often detailed information about its followers and their whereabouts. An advertisement that appeared in the Times of Tibet and in the magazine Knowledge.
Anyone who's against the Dalai Lama must be opposed without hesitation with men, money, and possessions. That is to say, by all means, including violence.
Why don't you simply advise people not to worship the deity Dorje Shugden and instruct others to be tolerant and avoid violence against those who continue to worship it?
Nobody harming on them.
But I've seen the calls for violence
No,
in
no.
the newspaper.
No.
I've seen it with my own eyes.
No. I think rumors.
Hello everyone, this is People in Power, and we're looking back at our best reports from 2008. I'm Summer El-Shahat. On today's program, the Dalai's demon.
Now, this deity is at the center of the controversy. On the one hand, the Dalai Lama wants to ban it. On the other, there are more than 4 million people across the world who worship Dorje Shugden. According to the Buddhist tradition, the deceased monk came back as a spirit and was deified by the 5th Lama. Ever since, Shugden has been revered as a protector deity. The worship of Shugden is a sensitive issue that's creating tension within the exiled Tibetan community. Last January, the Dalai Lama asked his community to stop the worship of the 400-year-old deity so as to end the divisions.
나중에 결혼도 즉 제마대도나 나라고 칠선도 남은데 럽되게
전요 바도 나니 제수 다게 제수 제모세.
For May and her family, Shugden remains a protector. Her family have been worshipping the deity for generations. Because they have defied the rule of the Dalai Lama, they have been ostracized from the community.
They have made separate rules for us. They said that no one is supposed to talk to us, and no one is supposed to have any contact with us.
A key moment in the history of Tibetan Buddhism and the beginning of a separation which could exclude 4 million Tibetans practicing this religion.
Aren't you ashamed to bring us such trouble? Get them to go. Get rid of them.
A few weeks after the Dalai Lama's speech, Shugden monks could no longer enter monasteries. They were to regroup themselves away from the monastery. Henceforth, they would be regarded as rebels, traitors who turned their backs on their master. Their fault, choosing to worship this idol, a demonic spirit, contrary to Buddhism, according to the Dalai Lama.
On the one hand, the Dalai Lama speaks all the time of freedom of religious expression and compassion, and on the other, he forbids us from practicing our religion and throws us out of monasteries. It's inconsistent. We don't believe in him anymore. He is no longer our master.
Yes, the Dalai Lama is a spiritual leader, but behind the face of this holy man lies a political leader, and particularly at this moment, so we can no longer believe him.
This old woman had to flee her village because she felt threatened. She found shelter 300 kilometers away from her place, in this family.
I took all my baggage, locked my house, and fled 3 days ago. I had no choice being the lone Shugden in my village. I have had a lot of problems. I couldn't sleep before 2 o'clock at night. I had to lock the door and place heavy rocks and wood against it to be sure no one could attack me. I kept locking my door so many times.
Before, we also used to have faith in him, in the Dalai Lama. Even we all had faith in him. But now she feels like every one of us feel that, if he's really Buddha, if he's really God, he won't create so much problem, he won't give us so much trouble, he won't, I believe if he's a Buddha, he won't give any problem to one, any human being, so we feel that, I think all of us have changed our mind now. We don't see him as we have seen him earlier,
They have been practicing this faith in private, far away from political considerations, but now politics have caught up with them. Behind this witch hunt of Shugdens lies the fear of Chinese infiltration in the ranks of the Tibetan refugees, and the looming threat of a schism dangerous for the fight for the autonomy of Tibet.
Now, the spiritual leader of Tibet, the Dalai Lama, faced a protest in Cambridge this morning when he arrived at Magdalen College to speak at a conference. The Dalai Lama is accused of persecuting a Buddhist sect and denying them religious freedom. But speaking to Look East, he dismissed the demonstration, as Joseph Hall reports.
His Holiness came to Cambridge to talk about a number of world issues, but several hundred protesters greeted his arrival with questions of their own.
We're here asking the Dalai Lama to make a clear, definitive statement that he does not support the segregation of Shugden Buddhists that is happening in his own exile community. There are signs in shops, restaurants, even medical facilities denying service or treatment to people of this faith. The only thing that they've ever done wrong is that they don't share the same religious views as the Dalai Lama, and for that reason, he's forced them out of their community.
Nobody knew exactly what time the Dalai Lama was due to arrive here this morning. It turned out to be about 8:40. The cacophony of noise behind me rose several octaves as he arrived. He was whisked into Magdalen College. We were told he wouldn't be giving interviews, but when I asked him whether or not he was encouraging segregation in Tibet, he invited me to talk to him. Are you concerned by the protest today?
now almost routine.
Are you surprised? What do you say? Is there segregation in Tibet?
No, they enjoy. Oh, that's also freedom of expression.
But
Very good.
They're saying there's segregation. Do you agree?
Segregation. That's they themselves created that.
They created it.
Ngarong chawat kari sinata ngasuk tasong torja kepi kanga chitu thiong horeng ini nu ta chusuk mai ba chapsik thong pi kanga thiong hore jamgar masalo phi nanda kanchik thong mombo kanga thiong re ten di sombala ene ta ngaso torja ngene pas khate ja mai para torja thula phemchi pala ta pas khopta ni ri chin chek chilita mau ba ti thucha chir mandu thone ne
But this is just we be in the Tumalon Sunday Dele Shoachi, and in it draw the carry in the Baina, and the Takazu Suzu Chuke, and the Sonso Tata Logina Lula, and the Torjot and Dewayo be any Kangamambochi and Tedeshara, and the Tenda Sonza and Natso. Bobake and Duta Chigda Tila and Hansaya Tata Karela go Kanga Chimbo and Trendo Sandra. And it tenda Sundanga to Chela Pata Kejashi, Tenda Machi, and it non turned out to reach Tendando Chibaina, and it Matso Bobby Duta Chigda, and it Pa Chorichoran Roya Matu, the Pintuya Yusama Sandura. And it Yanayang is those Donate de Capsa, and it Koso Kitsubake, and it Goti yoram goti ta ani ngacho tenda goti techo pala ani pha taise ani timur ta yana ke ja she che la samyo ti ne ani tenda ndo ani tata pad ki chong yore se ani tenda ndo chong yo pai na ani diwan ndo chong yore
siju jolo gumru de sho de ani ngal dro ni che dra ji turge gol che de ni umilang che de tamude turge gol sho enara tingila ngai chapachilo di big dibam nalole karsedulana ani torge subare anchige lombalani changurum bchelani jami phibe jamilum ani rawancho naji ani toge sobe ani changurum bchelani chude rawalani chugdura iningi de ta toge soba ani ro chitude anmone thane sem phangudura ana Jangurum nga Tandabadu sang Jangurum Sumje Mobuninula, to get Dujar and its own in Sumasura, Tandabada. In it, to give quarter show the number Uti Jimbichani, to give Karim Bedi, and the shade Karim Kitchenbody, Suzo Meriji in Bichani. In it, Mazu Pibichizon, this no do sangdo. Kajinana, Ta Mazulatanus Diore, put together law that you put this door is social. Tambuche, Tiang, Jangurmuchi, when it down in no more later. Mazu Pebe, when it is no the later. Pebe put this door together and this door which is to discrimination measure, Chitu Ichi Cheshua, Tiche Chitu later. And Yando Missy Majagal Hushul Chachaina, and his Sahanda, and his haunt and they go down, Kisi Togi and Kuchimape roll and Tuchini, Tugil and this suit to Chiton Shajurosha, Nimiskan Tunura. And today, Masu Pibishat Pibipare, Ra, Pil and Pibipare, Tamatinjul Kangi Yadu Chiparera. And Tindirochi Tanda and Nathan Tindirochi Jua and the Dioina, Mama Pakistan, the Jaganashi Chayang, Chamasa came to Lera, Pir and the toy in a pale and to get Sobal and to pay for a check out to any and Jumasa came the Lera. Jeza, Tangasu Pibichu Koto, Pupi kitchen body, to kill and people. People shut a deer, people roll it. Jazangazu Giorada, people be chanity, Kocha, Coach Carpio and Corapechu, Dawa secularism acting ethics ledger, people only chipacity, Shachani Yagri Samdra.
Uti Natagi Kangajo, not any Daji, Rason Tachu, to the Channel, Sonsi, the Waji Machusini, and the Tony Toshelo Sha, Naji Ju, EMS Summit, Jeda Yoda Meda Daji. Me Mambochi, Roger, Nashute, or the summer, Jedaming at the age 20. Tashi Lutin and the Misson Tus. Messon 2 summer, Takonji Teni, Corosagore, Mission of Sajunare, Caracunare, the Rogers of Kayam, Mangajitoni, Lucy Chasso. 제가 선생 대화제 조금에서 사드 아니 될 때문에 제지 돈이 가보니고 있나요? 지지는 대화제는 거의 봐준 걸로 대화지기 도와서 안 뒤돈 놀러 지지를 뱉었더라니 지 가래 있는 지켜져야지 저기부터 수지 대화제 뭐야게 랑아 까네 배들이 내서는 차고도 참 아직 내서는 배 신데 좀 쉬우지래 보면 나올라 롱위ton이 있나 문에 전에 지 범매마기 그래서 우리 사내는 것도 제가 내비 내가 하체 있네 제제매 제제나서들이 제세에 밑에는 제게 말이시 주수수 semble 문는데 실제 쇼건도 돈이 내대게 티도 크지 내대게 되지 같이 지나서 내려지나 할래 내려 소번 내려지도는 또한이 수수이 라오맹에 런세스 동행이 미마베 되는 그래서 수수이 토던데 센터선에 커서 못 보게 내슈 내려지도 할래 야sembo 니도 파종고 니제는 문에 도내지 보이지발을 팬바도 데모치스 팬베니지 내가 누구지 제베인도 카샤게 이렇게 너네 범명하게 sen시도 범인들 속에 도자지디 민들의 선루카단 내려셔서 터지고 싶지리 선 세모 방법도 오늘 무섭 싶지 차거든 디바사야게 내가 메마 도야게 내가 지마도 이제기 두레 디르세야지 남미 배버지는 게 동구민도 대노 같은 데토니 쉬고는 러다를 못하니지 파마도 보고 있나 다와메디 도자상이나 카테와 러다를 못 차송 기간기 투이나 들 디단 수수이 아니베 사회라마 때 나샤 진도 소다 사이네 무엇도 부지지 대화지 무초하게 내선 레지토니 랑아가인도 신는 베던 제던시 권에 있는 마티마 대화지 무시부지 아진 내리 베던 하정기 베던 저지 무시부지 노블방 무시부지 로제니 보기 레지레 상도
다르일까 술럽빈이 달려 로시 침브를 만져 톰사이에 그 카타스에 말을 배샤 두라지지 제주고 말을 남산명에 된 간다 로시 시도를 나 제주서 아마치나 로침브레스 근데 만에 나 기면 지만이 퍼주마 주면 라스니 별로 보네 나 디자원이 게임인데 리제데 솔레스 기메든 솔레스 오마틴데 키네 아마니 라게 고레나 키오르시토 랑나 기메테 아니 네 품을 다 아마라니 사마리 초라나 게라 스네 품을 디레 아니 네 러서 다 나타네 게메 나 파마도 살고 조레스 아니 나도 가버니 호케제시아야 마리사 그러나 마찬가지로 말하셔 주제는 지금 세상에 보면 세상 아래 라이 세상을 가지고 좀 졸라주면서 나지면다 tamam angulleso leggete sulle chimiche sulle tagione andu patu terone lo chire pasaki con sutti kachumari andu mitsanshite andu le yite sans le yonchume tuba tujile yonchume andu misande de yire ke tariki jumatonde koran te temne yire teson
那几头这样的，各种的东西吃了。
是吃的。
第二呢，就是这个也是强不也的。
强不也的，刚刚这个也的，他如出去是跟着马上着呢，老东那边俺就强不接，看那边看着一圈那的，你们都不过别家这样人，你们都这样就看着人的，我也没我妹妹是看给自己俺就那些，那老东那地你们都得。俺就说他的说穷没听见，没说着那水里那钱必须的，龙巴说米龙巴了皮米，这就地看看住进去了，马上把水来，你地开始偏头来的，偏头的生活没得。
In response to Lobsang Singay's urgent press conference. When Lobsang Singay appeared recently at an urgent press conference, our hopes were raised, thinking that he would help mend the split in the Tibetan community between Shugden and non-Shugden followers. We hoped that because of the Western education he had received, that he would have an enlightened view regarding the segregation and discrimination of Shugden followers and would lift the ban on the practice of Shugden imposed by the Dalai Lama. We had hoped his promise to be a leader for all Tibetans would come true. We thought that he would address the video that surfaced on October 16th in the Tibetan community. This video, made by a group of young Tibetans, including Tashi Dorje, stated that they intended to kill Nyima Tolku Rinpoche this summer, but did not have the opportunity. Nyima Tolku Rinpoche, a highly respected Shugden practitioner, publicly practiced Shugden, and this was the reason for their determination to murder him. They stated that they would continue to try and kill him. We had hoped that the urgent press conference was being held to implore these young Tibetans and all Tibetans to stop the killing. Lobsang Singay is very aware of the killings and murders that have been occurring for years. There have been numerous murders and attempted murders, including the attack of Kungchak Darje in 2014 and the stabbing of Punsak Jaltsen in 2016. Both of these attacks and others on Shugden followers have occurred in Lobsang Singay's mother's own hometown. These assaults have been connected to one group who are directly associated with the Dalai Lama organization. Unfortunately, we were very disappointed in the actual purpose of the press conference. Lobsang Singay announced the release of a video and a book to counter the false allegations made by the Shugden followers. These propaganda productions merely add fuel to the division within the Tibetan community. Does Lobsang Singay truly believe the one-sided Reuters article depicting Shugden followers as Chinese-funded puppets? Why did the Reuters article not mention the signs posted in the windows of stores and health clinics in the Tibetan settlements in India, banning Shugden followers from entering to purchase food or obtain needed health services? The Reuters reporter has admitted that he has no proof that the protests were receiving funding from the Chinese government. If the Reuters article is to be considered accurate, then we question the accuracy of the Washington Post article portraying Lobsang Singay as a Chinese supporter, owning a house in the U.S. purchased for him by the Chinese government. When this article was published, we did not believe the accusations. But now, if the Reuters article is to be considered factual, shouldn't the Washington Post's article also be given the same consideration? We also question the funding for the production of this video and the publishing of the 365-page book. It has been estimated that the cost of the publication was $25 million US. Some have estimated the cost to be as high as $100 million US. Is the Tibetan exiled government misappropriating funds donated by Westerners for the health and welfare of the Tibetan refugees to continue their propaganda campaign promoting segregation of and discrimination against Shugden followers? Why wouldn't these funds be used to help combat the AIDS health crisis and diabetes epidemic recently surfacing within the Tibetan community? Does Lobsang Singay really have the power to stop the segregation and discrimination against the Shugden followers, or is he merely a puppet being used by the Dalai Lama to continue the propaganda against the Shugden followers? Lobsang Singay stated that many Shugden followers have been using papers issued by the Indian government. If the Shugden followers were truly being supported by the Chinese government, would they be able to get travel papers and refugee status from the Indian government? In India and Nepal, outside the laws of the Tibetan Exiled Administration, Shugden communities and monasteries exist, and practice Shugden exists. These refugees were shunned by the exiled Tibetan administration, but were allowed to practice in India and Nepal. The U.S. government has pledged $23 million US in aid to the Tibetan exiled community. We would like to know if any of these funds are being allocated to the Shugden followers within the Tibetan refugee community. Since 2008, the Tibetan Exiled Administration has cut off all funding to the Shugden community, both the citizens and the monasteries. We fear that once the cover-up being perpetrated by Lobsang Sangay is made public, the generous support from the Western communities will end completely. This will affect all Tibetans, not only the Shugden followers, but the non-Shugden followers as well. We urge Lobsang Singay to have another urgent press conference and lift the ban on the practice of Shugden and stop segregation immediately.